is Luppa here, and I'm here to talk about one of the best things, in my opinion, at least to talk about, which is StarCraft. Yay! So, we're going to be doing a bit of replay analysis of this game between Liquid Taeja and Solar in the IEM Shenzhen, which was the finals game, the final set of the entire tournament, and it's an incredible series, so if you haven't watched it, you should go check that out. The replays are up on the IEM website, which is where I got these replays from. Also, the VODs will probably be up on YouTube as well, so check those out because they're very, very good games. And yeah, so without further ado, let's just hop into it, shall we? And it is going to be a ZVT on the map Overgrowth. So, from what I remember, this game's very bog standard ZVT. Bog standard. So, it's very interesting how this plays out, because even though it is very, very standard and not much really happens, there's a lot of stuff that people don't actually see that can be looked upon and analysed. So that's what my job here is to do, is to look at some of the stuff, the finer detail stuff that some people may not even realise, and get you more into the idea of how pros think about things in StarCraft. I'm actually going to speed up the start of this because the start of it is pretty simple. It's going to be a barracks and a refinery into a Reaper, which comes up from Taeja. And this is the first kind of deviation thing that you will see. You see, of course, Solar getting the gas at 3 minutes, so we can have the speed done by 6 minutes. And we also see Taeja going for an earlier reactor. Now, this is kind of a tell. It's good that Solar actually seen this, because he's able to notice, okay, he got his reactor earlier than he would usually, because usually Terrans would go up to that 2 or even 3 Reaper count before they actually get their reactor, but Taeja has opted to go for that early reactor, and with that he's able to pump out 2 early Marines, of which he's going to use to deny any scouting. And of course, also what you can see Taeja going for that second gas relatively early. So this is already quite interesting from Taeja, because Hellion Banshee has kind of fallen out of the meta. It's kind of fallen out of the scene. You don't really see it that much. Well, at least I don't see it that much in ladder or anything like that. You may see it every now and then in tournaments, but Taeja is planning on putting some pressure back on the Solar. And as you can see, Solar is getting his 3 queens up, not taking really much damage from that Reaper. The Reaper does get 1 kill on those circlings, and we'll just see how this plays out. So, as you can see, Taeja does get those 2 Marines, and those are basically just deny scouting. So you see him getting bringing 1 back, and he's going to use that Marine to patrol. So can put that patrol path set here, deny any sort of overload scouting. As you can see, Solar sees this and moves his overload back. And he wants to make sure he doesn't see this, because these early Hellions could do a lot of damage if they're not scouted correctly. And you see the starport does go down, and he's able to do that because he has got that second gas up relatively early. Now, I want to look into Solar's cam and see what he actually sees. So Solar actually just sees the reactor. Everything he sees here is pretty standard, although he did see how early that reactor went down, and he did also see that there was a Marine there. So that tells you that even though he got the reactor straight away, he actually didn't swap it over to the factory straight away. He used it to make 2 Marines. So that's kind of a tell that he's doing something kind of sneaky. Because why else would you get the 2 Marines here? Well, I guess you'd get them for a bit of defense, but since the Hellions are out so early in Taeja's build, any sort of link pressure that would come out, he still has 2 Hellions. The zoning speed is about to finish right now, so if Solar was making a lot of links, would do a lot of pressure, if he microed these Hellions correctly, he'd not really take that much damage. He would just sit at the top of the ramp. He'd have to lift his CC off, obviously, but a commitment from Solar at that point would be very, very committed. And as long as Taeja doesn't nuke that much damage, he's going to be in a fine spot. So, very safe, a bit too safe, but it's just because he wants to actually make sure that he denies as much scouting information as he can. Because this Banshee, if it goes unscouted and undetected, it can really do a lot of damage and put Taeja into a very good spot into the mid game. So we're going to continue this replay. And it does go for that. Wait a second. Goes for it. There we go, the Banshee and the research straight away. Solar going for a third base 6 minutes, that's perfectly standard. Now, he's sending the overload in. It was quite lucky for him that the other Marine was a bit further away, that he wouldn't stop shooting it, because, as you can see, Solar does get a good glimpse of this stopper with the tech lab, and that's just a tell for Banshee. So he knows Banshees are coming. Instantly when he sees that, he gets 1 gas. I think he actually gets, he gets 1 gas. Oh, the first 100 gas, he gets his lair straight away. Now, when you're playing against anything that's not Banshee, you'll see players just getting their other gases and getting 2 evolution chambers straight away and going for double upgrades, because unless you're facing this Banshee play, getting an earlier lair doesn't actually give you anything, but early upgrades does. So he's going to be able to get those Immutalists up straight away, which are going to be able to deal with this Hellion Banshee pressure a lot easier. Now, one thing I also want to note is that as soon as he did see this Banshee, which was about, it's a bit further on from here. So right now he sees it, and he sees the instant reaction there, getting that gas, but he also does one key thing, he makes 10 Zerglings. Now, what you would think is that he's using these 10 Zerglings just to get some, defense, to make sure he doesn't take any pressure from the Hellions, but actually, he actually looks at it a different way. He knows that at this point, Taeja's barracks count is going to be very, very low. So he uses these Zerglings actually not to defend, but to put on some pressure with a counter-attack, which is very, very smart against his Hellion Banshee play. He uses these 3 queens that he has here to defend any sort of Hellion Banshee, because that queens are very, very good against this. As long as he gets this creep over, and he gets a spore here, so that the queens won't get attacked by those things. And the counter-attack here does actually a lot of damage. He forces all of his Hellions back, and now the Banshee doesn't have anything to protect it, so the queens are able to get over to rest straight away. Of course, he doesn't see the Banshee coming over, so Solar does take a bit of damage from this initial Banshee harassment, but as soon as he gets it over, Spire started straight away, and then as soon as the Spire starts, he gets those double evolution chambers started as well. Nothing but drones here from Solar. Although he's making sure not to commit too much to the defense, he has these queens out to make sure he doesn't actually take too much damage, and he's making some links now to make sure he doesn't die to any sort of 2-base play, because until that moment, I don't think he actually saw the 3rd base. So if it were, for example, a 2-base Banshee into 2-base Banshee Hellbat, he would need some sort of lings and banings to deal with that. So I'm going to see Solar's cam. So Solar does see the 3rd base, okay. So he knows that there's not going to be any sort of barracks play coming up anytime soon. The lings here are just merely for defense, actually also to deal with these rocks. So the queens here are able to fend off these Hellions, and also able to get the creep spread going. And the game just plays out pretty standard from here. Taeja did a bit of damage, but it wasn't worth it for the investment of the Cloak Banshees. So he's a bit far behind right now. And you see Solar going, this is an interesting timing right here. You'll see Solar getting his 4th base as soon as the mutas start, so that if any sort of drop play was to happen, he would be able to defend it. So it's a very safe kind of play, just, getting your 4th base as the mutas start. You can see the camera whenever here. So he actually waits for the mutas start there, and as soon as the mutas start, he brings a drone over. There he is. Bringing a drone over to make sure he can put that 4th hatchery down straight away. And getting the usual upgrades, getting double gas straight away at that 4, so we can start mining gas from it immediately. Now, right here you also see Taeja moving out. And this is just merely just a creep clearing up move. He doesn't have combat shield, doesn't have any sort of way to do damage, because he knows the Banshee tech actually delayed a lot of his attack for quite a while. So he knows he doesn't want to actually commit with this attack. He's literally just using this to clear up creep. And if, for example, everything was here to clean this up, he would just boost away with his Metafax and get back to his base quickly enough to be able to fend off any sort of, mutas or anything like that. He does also, you can tell also this was just a cleanup move, because he has a barracks rallied here just to defend any sort of mutalist harassment, because if he was committing to an attack, he would just bring all of his army with him and he would just go. So that's an interesting move you can see here from Taeja, because he's really, really making sure to keep Solar on his toes with that creep spread. Of course, Solar's a very, very incredible player, so as soon as the creep spread is cleaned up, he uses the 3 queens he built earlier just to redo those creep shimmers. One thing also, I'm going to zoom back just a bit, because I remember something that was very cool from Solar that he did, is that, as soon as we get here, okay, so, wherever this happens, it happens right here. It's to do with the queens. Where are they going to come? When are they going to come? Okay, so here, you'll see Solar just, goes up with the 3 queens he made early and puts on the creep shimmers. But what's also interesting is as soon as he puts the creep shimmers down, he doesn't keep the queens out to keep spreading creep, he actually rallies them back. Now, most people would just say, oh, well, that's just, that's not really anything. It's actually a lot more important than people think. These creep tumors are more than enough to creep all the way up to where he wants to, around this area, around to the 4th even, but he doesn't need any more. So he puts the queens actually back and plays safe with him, so that later on, whenever Taeja does this kind of move, of which he cleans up his creep, if his queens were actually with his creep up here, the queens would die to the marines, and then we have to make more queens, and it would delay the time he actually has to put the creep tumors down. So, very good methodical play here from Solar. And as soon as that, obviously, he goes straight over with his queens and just plants down those creep tumors back again. So, relatively even in supply. This is kind of normal for this kind of game. The Solar will have a lead because he is Zerg, and Zergs usually do have this kind of economic lead at this point. Interesting though, Taeja leaves back these Hellions. He doesn't actually play risky at all. He sits back with his Hellions in case any sort of what am I doing? There. Yeah, any sort of Ling attack would come around from this side, because he's only building his bunker now to defend any sort of Ling run by. And before that, he didn't actually have anything. So he kept his Hellions back. Instead of trying to poke around and see if he can do any drone damage, he kept them back to make sure he didn't take anything. And now, since he has these 4 Marines to put in the bunker, he turned them into Hellbats and is going to start putting on some pressure. And Taeja's just running, getting some map control with his attack. He's got his mines coming out now. He's got 2 mines at a time coming. And he's just sitting around. He wants to clear up this area. He knows this area is going to be clearing up with creep. So this whole area is basically just Solar's territory. And Taeja knows this. So I also think at this point Taeja knows about the 4th base. So he did actually run a Marine down to check for this 4th base, which is very smart. So Taeja just wants to apply pressure and see if he can trade well with this area and stop this creep spread from going off this side. Because if he stops the creep spread going up this side, then it means he can apply pressure over to this 4th base while also dropping on this side. So that's Taeja's plan right now. And we're going to see how that works out. So he pushes out with these, and he's actually rallying. Well, he's actually rallying here, but he does end up rallying towards this kind of area to push out. So he is going to clean up more of this creep. He's just going to get some map control with this. One kind of mistake is that Taeja really just doesn't have a 4th base. He doesn't have a 4th CC on the way. So it's kind of committed. He does take these extra 2 barracks instead of getting the 4th CC. So I think Taeja just was a bit overconfident with how his position was, because this is a very committed attack and Solar's just completely ready for everything. So you can see right now the game just goes out, he clears the creep, Solar's just going back, putting the creep out again, going in his mid to see if he can get any sort of damage done. And now I think it's the point where Taeja's like, okay, I need to go. And his 2-2's finished. He has a fair idea that his 2-2 is going to be quicker than his opponent, so that's whenever he starts realizing, okay, I'm just going to kill you right now. So he's adding all these barracks, and he's just expecting expecting Solar to just crumble. And he's getting Marauders as well, just in case any sort of hive tech does come out. As you can see, Solar is getting his infestation pit and a macro hatch instead. One actual notable thing, I actually wrote this down, is that at 1340, Solar actually opts to go for a 5th base. He actually sends a drone over. Let's see where the drone is. Where is the drone? Drone is somewhere. He sends a drone over. He wants to take this base, but he decides against it. Now, that could just be admitting the fact that Taeja just has map control right now, and if he was able to clean up all this creep, the 5th base would just be an easy target for Taeja. And Solar's just not giving Taeja any sort of way of getting any damage done. So he's just playing it very, very safe and very conservative right now, which is a very, very smart move, because of course Taeja could just run over here, clean up this creep, and then contest this area and this area, because he knows the creep here isn't actually finished yet. So he just loses all of this space, as you can see on the map, if he does that. But Solar, cleverly enough, decides not to go for this 5th base, because he actually, I think he has a fair idea that Taeja doesn't have a 4th base at this moment. So he's actually not under any pressure to get any more income. It comes doing fine. You can see he's ahead of income right now, especially in gas. So he's not under any pressure. He's not going to take any risks he doesn't necessarily need to take. That's one thing that I just wanted to note because I wrote that down and I thought it was very, very good. So just a, parade of army coming right now. All these units are just getting rallied over to this area. And Taeja's just like, okay, you should take damage now. Not even that he wants to win, because he's on 3-base economy. He just wants to get a really good trade-off, because he has so many mines and so many Hellbats. He wants to get a very good trade-off, so that it comes to a point where Solar can actually take its 5th base. Because if he trades really inefficiently right now, and loses all his banelings, if he were to take this 5th base, Taeja would just be able to rally over and kill it. And as you can see now, as soon as this +2 finishes, he's going to want to get his +3. He has the gas and everything for it. He's going to get his +2 attack. And this is the scary moment for Zerg. Whenever they see these 2 upgrades going, these +3 scary things, okay? Because you can see right now, Solar's infestation isn't even done. His 3-3 is nowhere near ready. And Taeja knows this. So he's going to try and get some damage done before 3-3, so that whenever 3-3 actually hits, Solar will just be kind of dead. That's kind of the plan, the thought process of this. So, clearing up all this creep, going to get the defensive position here. Mine's well spread out as well, so that if he does take hits, it's not going to, all mount up in one ling or whatever. So, Solar's is maxed, so he's going to want to take a fight soon, but of course he's waiting for all of his lings to, arrive. He's waiting for his 2-2 as well. He's a bit under pressure, but he's actually not that much under pressure. And as you can see, where you can tell a professional player from a non-professional player, is that even under this pressure that he's taking, because any other player would just be like, okay, I need to hold this attack off or I die. But Solar's so composed and so calm, while this is all happening, he's like, I need to take a 5th base. So he just does it. He just goes over and wants to take his 5th base, even while this is all happening. So he's just very composed and does all the correct measures he needs to take. Gets a free mine there, not worried about anything else. And he's just not committing. He doesn't need to commit. He's biking up a bit of gas right now though. So he's going to want to get his hive up as soon as possible. And now Taeja starts his 4th CC. This is pretty late. And he's relying on this attack because, okay, he's starting to rally back here. But this is a very committed push. So we see right now, and even with this, even with the rally there, he actually rallied straight over. So this is his entire army. This is all of his eggs in one basket. He needs to do damage, or needs to trade well at least, so that Solar can counterattack and win the game. And it's harder to counterattack and win the game as a Zerg if, say, Taeja had this 4th base already down on a planetary. If he had that planetary down, it'd be so hard for Solar to just counterattack and win, but he doesn't. So Solar's actually making sure to trade with these mines very efficiently. He poked it a bit and moved a lot of the lings back so that only a couple of lings were getting hit by those mines, which was a very smart move. Because, in my opinion, I feel as if Taeja's just relying way too much on these mines. He's got 8 mines right now, and he's just not got that much of a marine count that you should have at this point. The mines need to do really good connections, otherwise he'll just fall behind. So I feel as though that was just a bit of a gamble by Taeja. It's not necessarily a bad gamble, but it's a gamble nonetheless. Because the mines actually aren't really in his control to do damage. It's up to Solar how well he controls to be able to see how much damage they take. So we'll continue this here. And so he does actually want to go around to the side. He knows there's no creep spread over here. It's a good place for him to attack. And it's a very small choke point, so it's hard for him to surround. Although, what Solar does do is he brings his army around this side. He wants to do for a flank, and a flank with the amount of mines that Taeja has is a perfect move, because the flank is going to mean that all these mines, if he controls correctly, will just end up hitting the bio as they run back. So this is a very, very clever move by Solar, and he's just played this game very, very well, and as you can see, this game just goes. Taeja just gets flanked on the back, all the buildings get connections, the Mutas is clean up all of these medevacs, and he just doesn't have an army to fall back on. And basically just Solar just runs him over. Now, that would just be seen as, you know, a very bog standard game. You know, Taeja just got outplayed. But it was just that Taeja made a bit of a risk, and Solar knew exactly how to expose that, and he did. And you see a massive Baneling attack here. He kind of knows that Taeja's dead. So he just goes with these Banelings, making sure not to make too bad connections, cleaning up everything, rallying up his Lings, and he hits just before 3-3 finishes. I think Solar knows at this point he can't have 3-3 done, so that's why he commits to the stack. He can easily just drone up this, you know, 5th and just go easy peasy, mack her up, because he knows he can just cancel his 4th base, but he knows that he has a bit of a timing window for this 3-3. So he just goes clean of all the metavacs, and at this point, Taeja can't really do anything about any of these units, and Taeja just calls CG. So, as you can see, just a very clever, methodical... So, yes, that was an incredible game there by Solar and Taeja in the IEM Shenzhen. I would recommend to go see that series out, because it is a very good series. As you can see, Taeja just didn't really take Solar too seriously. He made tried to do a lot of harassment, and Solar just did not crumble and took a lot of risks in his build and just expected Solar to fall, which he didn't. So that is that, and I going to do some shout outs before I leave. Thank you to imperfect for partnering with me. I really do appreciate it. Going to get some good content coming out, and that'll be really good, awesome. So if you could, please go check out imperfect.com. That is imperfect.com, and follow them on Twitter as well. They're going to be doing a lot of stuff, League of Legends related stuff. I'm going to be mainly pirating the StarCraft related stuff. So yes, thank you very much, guys, and I'll be coming out with some more stuff later in the future, and see you later. Bye.